How many of you grew up and you had a father that you're recognizing? There's no disrespect or anything like that to him, but you're recognizing your father instilled in you a performance-based mindset, either directly or through him not being in his father role to mentor you, to guide you, to equip you, to love you, to speak affirmation over you. It was only when you did something well. So some people become high-achieving performers. Other people don't bother at all. And some people go, Mark, I'm not performance-oriented. I just can't start anything. And it's like, well, that's that. It's performance-oriented. It just didn't get equipped in you because your metric of movement is performance-based. And we do that with our relationship with God. We do that in how we address our faith and how we walk in faith. It's a metric on how well am I doing this? Then perfectionism comes in and takes it up a notch. So if I'm going to feel loved, I must do such and such. Perfectionism comes in and says, yeah, and you better do it right or else. And it has to be this or it's never enough, right? So performance-driven living is toxic. And many believers have grown up with that. And it's actually a part of their mental health struggle. It influences their anxiety, their feeling of disconnect from God, their striving, their inability to sit and rest, their inability to experience the fruit of the Spirit. And they say, you know, it's because I'm not saved enough, because I'm not believing enough. No, you were neglected in the emotional capacity of grace and love. Why am I yelling? I'm already yelling. See, I'm already yelling. See, I'm already hooping and hollering. But anyways, this question gives some details that I'd like to go in. I want to say thank you. I'm taking your course on exposing the rejection mindset and healing from spiritual abuse. I bought your books as well. God Loves Me and I Love Myself, Exposing the Rejection Mindset. And I can't remember the other one. Anyway, as I go through your courses and material, my eyes are opened continually to the oppressive and bound state I've been living in for years. I'm in my 50s and have never felt close to God, nor felt like God had anything for me. Let me just read this again. I am in my 50s and I've never felt close to God, nor felt like God had anything for me. I'm going to tell you, this is a large percentage of believers. Now, why am I bringing this out? Because this is what people are going through. It's my conviction, my observation, that the number one problem Christians struggle with, number one, they don't feel connected to God. Like, isn't that the main thing that we should be helping people to do, to be able to connect? So, sister, you're not alone. You are not alone in this battle. And a lot of times it's not until we're later in life that we deal with it. We kind of try to compensate for a long time. And people write to me, say, I'm in my 50s or I'm in my 60s. They kind of go into it's a too late kind of syndrome where I'm so late in life. It often takes a while to understand what you grew up with, to understand how you lived out of that, right? Because we survive and we just live out of what we know. And it takes a while to go, oh, that was goofy. Okay, I get it, right? So almost like I'm the one of the sheep in the pasture, but not chosen for anything in particular. I'm just hanging out amongst the cool people, watching as God does a work in their life or through them. This is a common thing that is written to me and a common battle that many brothers and sisters have. And part of it, too, is the other brothers and sisters are faking it. They're faking it. So when you say, come out in the name of Jesus. So when you say, oh, I'm struggling with, they put on their like, well, I've been going to this, and I witnessed to this person. I went to and I prayed for this person, and look at me, my faith is so great. And you're like, I'm just trying to share what I'm going through here. I'm just trying to talk about what I'm going through, you know? So anyway, that doesn't help, because when I read what you're sharing, I go, I get it. I know what that feels like. It's frustrating. And many people are struggling in depression because they think they should be doing more. And then they conclude, God, either I missed it or both. I missed it and or God just doesn't have anything for me. And it has to do with the love tank not being filled. It's bringing up your broken heart. And this is what I'm encouraging my brothers and sisters to recognize. I'm in the stands watching the game, and that's all I'll have. You really nailed it for me in your course, the rejection mindset. I'm glad that that's helped, because that is what you're describing. A friend of mine shared you with me, and I have watched your videos ever since. I love how you bring us to understand the love of God for everyone. I cannot tell you how many times I've said to myself and out loud to God, you're just going to have to leave me behind because I can't get it right. That's heavy, right? You know, that's perfectionism talking, by the way. And that's where perfectionism leads us, to utter exhaustion. I can't do this. I can't seem to catch a break. I can't get it right. That is the mindset of just right and never enough. So many of you starting to realize, wow, I didn't think of myself as a perfectionist, but I've been influenced by that mindset, and it's exhausting me. So my friend has been helping me also to know the relationship journey. And then she shared you with me, words cannot express how grateful I am to have found your ministry. With that said, I grew up in the church, Assemblies of God, and have always struggled with connecting to God. The church seemed to preach on works and performance to receive love from God or to be chosen of God. Yeah, and it's not necessarily like directly, it's more just the subconscious undercurrent of do more, do more. There's like a list of things you need to do and a list of things, and so creates this hypnotic kind of thing in the culture of whatever problem it is, there's something I'm not doing that I need to be doing. And it just feeds more performance. It's the bait and switch. Christianity. God loves you as you are. Ask him into your life. Okay, now get in the church. You got to do this. 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 And straighten out. Straighten. It's like, whoa. We came into church and had a shock of our lives. Unless you are religiously perfect or attained a degree from a reputable Christian. Oh, yes, a degree. Yes, a degree. So you can be biblical and pastoral, so you can have an impressive resume. You cannot get involved in ministry, or rather not be called by God into ministry, unless, of course, it's janitorial or serving in the nursery during service. So the people called of God can be fed, right? You know, if I was visiting your church, I would want to go over to the janitor and go, what's he got to say? I'm going to talk with the landscaper, you know, because, sorry, my echo button keeps hitting. It needs healing. See that? There we go. I think I would, I think if Jesus was to visit your church, I think that's what he would say. He'd go over and start talking to the person over here and everyone overlooked, right? And they would think, Jesus is here. Jesus is here. You want to meet our senior pastor? Nah. I'd like to talk to that person. Wait, what? See, when Jesus arrived on the scene, he didn't go look for the highest echelon of the religious elite. Now, he met with one in the night who snuck out to meet with him to try to get a sense of what it means to be born again, that good old Nicodemus, right? So I want to take your statement and go, yeah, someone serving in janitorial, I'd like to talk to them. What's God doing in their life? Because sometimes those people on the ground in real life, they can many times be incredibly loving, incredibly gracious, have so much to offer. So next time, those of you that are in college and you're at your school, or next time you're at a church or you're at a big function, just notice take a moment to notice the people serving. Sometimes you can have interactions with some of the richest people in here. The richest people in here are not up there at the top. I've met some of them. Don't tell anyone. They're not that impressive. They think they put their pants on differently than me and you. Not that impressive. The people of depth, because the people often high up in high position, they're so busy, they're in the machine of life, nothing against them, right? But to be a person who has depth and has love, the kind of love that when you're around them, you feel it. They need space in their life. And people that are often in those serving areas, they're overlooked, or but they don't have to worry about the limelight. They don't have to fuss over making sure, I find, just a side thought, it can be some of the most fascinating people. And many times God has used them, what I call them prophets in the shadows. Ooh. You never know when a prophet in the shadow gets used in your life. And you're like, oh, I need the preacher to pray for me. I need that person to pray. Because if I get a one-on-one with that person, then maybe not. Maybe just the everyday person that interacts with your life. And who knows? It could be you could have an amazing interaction with somebody in the store. It could be an angel. The Bible says, you recognize you might be entertaining angels unaware. You never know what's going on. Anyways, I'm gonna bring it back. Focus, Mark. I'm the middle child, and definitely feel ignored through childhood. You hit that on the head for me 100%. Growing up, you could gain love from mom and dad through performance. That also is huge for me that you talk about. My sister, the eldest child, was a straight A student without even trying. That's many firstborns are that way. I was a straight C student and worked my butt off for this achievement. In my house, I needed to be more like my sister. My dad knew I could get A's if I applied myself. So I simply wasn't applying myself. He saw me as being lazy and defiant. And even at a young age, you could pick up, he's not thrilled with me. That's a tough thing to carry throughout childhood. What do we do with that? A kid doesn't go, I'm going to have some issues here. You just survive. It's not till decades later that you even consider it. And but at this point, you're already picking up the signals. So at this stage in my journey as a kid, I picked up those signals. People don't listen unless I talk really well, really clear, and I got to have something to say. And people don't pay attention unless it's something very, very good that's impressive. And became the driving force of how I'm going to find a sense of love and validation. So growing up, my dad did not show love. He would say he loved us, but did not show it, which is something many say. I talk a lot about a father speaking his love over his children, but many say, we heard it. Yeah, I love you every now and then. It typically wasn't regular though, but it wasn't shown in demonstration. And the way that I talk about a father showing love to his family is, first of all, that he loves his wife. We tend to look at parenting like go right to the kids. Start with the marriage, because out of the marriage is where you bless your kids the most. Your kids are blessed when they see you as a couple working on your life, working on your journey, growing. And they know you got issues, but you're working through, and you fight for each other. You work through things. You love. So a father loving his wife, and out of that loving his children and paying attention. Parents, be aware, especially fathers, but mothers too. Be aware that we are so easily distracted. We have these devices that we get lost in. We have these always-on things that are pulling at our attention. And just be aware of what's pulling at your focus, because it causes us to not be present. In fact, many of you in your mental health journey could benefit a lot by practicing moments, no devices, to just be. To just be. This is a very important thing. And I know this is me. I like to take tangents. Okay, I'll get back to what my sister is sharing here. But we have to learn how to practice paying attention. Our kids not only need it, but so do our relationships, and so does our life. My wife and I were out yesterday, and on the way back, we stopped for a coffee and went through the drive-through, and the coffee was like almost cold. It was like, it was like lukewarm. You ever had like lukewarm coffee? Like, it tastes like it came out of like a gas station toilet. It's just terrible. So I'm like, do I just get over it or do I go in? I said, you know what? This is worth a good warm cup. So I said, let me just go in. And I went in, no big deal. I said, hey, would you mind? And they're like, oh, so sorry, whatever, right? So then they're like, we need to brew a new pot. And when people tell me that, I go, yes, because, I like that fresh right off the top. I said, no problem. I'll sit here. You know what I did? I sat down. I went to grab my phone. It wasn't there. It wasn't there. And I'm like, oh, it's in the car. So I had no ability to tell my wife they're going to brew another pot. So she's in the car. She's not looking my way. And I'm waving. Hey. And I'm like, well. So I'm like, I sit down. And I go, I guess I'm just going to sit here with my thoughts and myself, right? And it's like, we need regular times of that. Just sit with your thoughts and just be with yourself. It's like, we always have something. But anyways, going back to a father, one of the things that a father needs to do is be aware and just watch and just be aware of what's happening in the home. Where's everybody at? How are they doing? Ask. Find in your children ways to love them and believe in them and empower them. And so most fathers are that are like what I'm hearing here, are distracted in their work and how tired they are. And they don't realize, no, your marriage and your children, that is work, the work. Did you know the job you go to, you get paid for is your third job? Now everyone's exhausted. I got 3 jobs. No, most people just think you have one and you come home exhausted. Don't realize like, no, number 1's my marriage. Number 2 is my children. Number 3 is my work. And yeah, that is tiring. It's a lot of work. It's exhausting. If you have children, it's very exhausting. So anyway, getting back to the story here, let's process through this a little bit. Middle child here. So you kind of following in that template that many middle child struggle with. He did not come home from work and scoop us up in his arm and give us hugs. So you have a memory of missing that affection, that tender affection from him, his delight in you. Women that don't receive the delight of their father often look for it in men. And this is what, causes a lot of, relationship choices and stuff like that, right? And will struggle with that feeling of worth, and it will drive into so many behaviors. It could drive then in becoming a performer where you're trying to, in your job, in your work, trying to succeed. Do you know how many people are trying to succeed? They're saying so that they will be successful, but do you know what we're really doing? So that our Father will be proud of us, so that then we're somebody. It's all lack of unconditional love. And so it gives room for a rejection mindset. It was usually us being scolded for playing too loud or being too loud. When he got home from work, he wanted it quiet. Now, there is a part of that as a dad that I get. Now, I consider myself an active, aware father, but I do like my kids know my favorite friends are one's name is Peace, the other one's name Quiet, and I like to hang out with them a lot. But when there's neglect and then I just want things quiet, it creates an annoyance that the father's just annoyed by you. Am I tracking with you? I know I'm talking to you like you're across from me, but I hope I'm tracking to where you are, because that's what makes it feel like you're an inconvenience. So then it makes it like that's how God feels about us, that he's just annoyed with us. So if we were playing too loud, we were told to be in trouble. We'd go quiet and go to our rooms. After dinner, he would watch the news or something he would want to watch. I know this is typical of dads. Yeah, but it wasn't the best. It wasn't healthy. And that's why I said he was broken and he put his brokenness into work. A lot of dads, historically, they're very angry. They're angry with themselves. They're stressed out, and they put it all into work. So because their life is on the line. I got to make money. So they're hung on providing, and that's it. I got to provide. I got to provide. And that's why a lot of people have trouble retiring or even later in life, because when they're not at their job, they don't know what to do with themselves because everything was in work. So he's exhausted. He's not investing a lot in his marriage. So him and his wife are kind of functioning partners and not in a marriage bond. So it's not life-giving. So his solution is just check out. And he checks out by reading the paper. In the old days, many of you growing up, you had to look at your father over very thin paper of the New York Times, or where I came from, the Hartford Courant. They still have the Hartford Courant? I don't even know. Are they even in business anymore? Remember the newspaper? It's not even a thing anymore. And so he's lost in his own world. So he thinks, I got to come home and I just need to, nothing wrong with like recalibrating. I remember as a new dad, I was working construction very early and late hours, long days. And I would come home. My wife was exhausted with Max at one season, and then when we had Abby. And I remember God working on something in my life. And this helped me a lot. I'm driving home. I'm like, God, I'm so tired. I can't even keep my eyes open when I get home. And I sensed this thought, and I believe this was God working in my thinking as I was trying to just marinate on this as I'm driving. And the thought came to me, when you go home, your wife's your number one priority. Like, yes, yeah, she's my number one priority. Go home, open that door with the mindset of serving her. Don't go in the mindset with, I need to pass out. Go with the mindset of serving her. And you'll see energy will be added to you. You'll have the energy. So what did I just describe? That's grace. Because I go, I don't think I have it. And then I go in anyway, and I go, but this is important to me. And I found such a difference than if I come home and go, I'm just tired. Now, we all have days like that, folks. We all have that. But many dads in their fatigue, they went selfish. And they think, well, if I sit here, watch the game for hours, and they checked out, and this created a epidemic of passive fathers. And it became like the norm. And then we see it in TV shows and things like that. It's like, hey, there's the dumb dad that we make fun of, and he's a moron, and he didn't know anything, right? And now we're basically living in the age of the father's heart. Show me any situation in society, and I will show you there is a father missing in that situation. Every problem you read on the news, everything everyone's spinning and arguing about, wasting their time in all these debates and stuff, we're missing the heart of the father, because that's who God is, and that's who he wants to see manifest, is the heart of the father, which he prophesied through Malachi. You want to see the land healed? It's going to be the heart of the father to the sons. The sons are going to wake up to that, to the heart of the fathers. So, again, let me get back to the dad's in control of the TV. So, dad dictates what we watch. If we don't like it, we can go to our rooms, right? So there's no sense of, you know what? I'm a father right now, so I need to be mindful of things we could watch as a family. Now, back in the day, there wasn't a lot of options. Today, it's like you got 900 streaming options or whatever. Back in the day, there was, 5 channels. If you were like me, we had the antenna, and you got to stand and hold some of you don't even know about this. You don't know nothing about this, about having to hold the antenna just right to get that signal coming through. There it is. And then it would, I lost it. I got to hold it. And Mark, just stand right there and hold it. And I'm just like holding the antenna because somehow my body's grounding it. And all you people had cable. I didn't have cable yet. But there isn't a mindset of what can we do to connect, because it's relationship that is most important. How do we bond? And a father, all you fathers, new dads out there or dads, it is all about the bond. Hartford Courant still exists, oldest newspaper in the U.S. Okay. Hey, thank you, Mary. Yeah, remember, I used to like that. I used to like sitting there and grabbing the paper, and I'd go to the sports section, the comics, and, whatever. And it's kind of a little Sunday afternoon tradition. What's Dad doing? Oh, right? He's digesting his carbs, and he's in a glucose coma right now. But it's important that we as dads wake up to the bond that's needed. That's the key. You must develop the bond and develop it as early as possible. If you didn't develop a bond with your children, prayerfully consider, how do I help the bond to be developed? And that is done through just spending time. You can't get around that, because that time is credibility. You invest in it. Invest in it. Now, on the other side, those of you that are children of fathers, did your father spend time with you, bonding with you? If you like to play with Barbies, he sat there and said, okay, I'm playing with Barbie. He's not interested in Barbies, but because you're interested in Barbies, he's interested. This is how we build relationship, right? My kid plays video games all the time. I don't know what to do. I don't know. Okay, first of all, why don't you sit there and play the video games with them a little bit? I don't know, these foolish games. Well, maybe you need a little foolishness in your life, because you got to learn how to develop the bond. We have to learn the ministry of Jesus is Emmanuel, God with us. Emmanuel isn't humans go up here. It was he came down to us. And so we as parents, we have to get down at their level and show interest, because that builds the bond. Build the bond. Now that's where everything flows out of. Kids acting whack, the bond is what helps you speak into that situation. When the kid's going astray, when the kid's struggling, the bond is what gives you the ability to operate in that. What parents often do is they wait till the crisis happens. And panicking, and I'm your father, and you live under this roof, and I just told you what I said when I was your age, and it's like, you're speaking outside of bond. You got to, if your kid's acting up, you go, I need to spend some time. I need to recalibrate. Yeah, but my business is all, who cares? Who cares if you grow a big business and you don't know your kids? I don't know. That's just how I feel about it. It's not condemnation of your kids having issues. There's stuff our kids are going to struggle with, even in loving homes and stuff like that. So this is not a condemnation thing. But anyways, let me get back to this, because you're bringing up a lot of points I think are important to understand. I know this is, I think his mentality was children are seen but not heard. I mentioned that when my wife and I did a podcast episode on this past week. I hope you guys like that, by the way, because I enjoyed that format, a little bit different setup, and we're excited about some of the things coming up with that. But let me get back. I mentioned the statement, don't see, don't feel, don't talk, don't see, don't feel, I think is the statement that they bring out in recovery groups. And so you're bringing out some of that here, that kids are to be seen, not heard. He was very much a dictator. It was not in a loving manner, but very much like my house, my rules, don't like it, get out, right? So that it's like the quick, easy, rather than relational investment. You just go to, you know what, just be quiet. Don't do this because I said so. Now every parent has done that. Every parent has done that, even good ones. So, but when that is the common go-to, our opinions were not heard nor considered. Even our vacations were dictated by Dad. He never asked us where we wanted to go or would we like to go here. It was only his choice because it was his money. So here's a question I'd like to ask you. Was it unfamiliar for you to have somebody ask you, what is it you want in life? For many people with this, it's like it never dawned on us, what do I want? Because we were never asked. So personal choice is challenging. It's like not really a reference because you're always responding to what everyone else wanted. Don't get me wrong. I know he loves me and his family. I see a dismissal here. Don't get me wrong. I know he loves me. Sometimes and I get it. Sometimes we backpedal like, he was a guy. I know he loves me, right? He didn't say it, but I know it, right? And I get that. We all do that. But I'm your brother from another mother, and I want to go bring it back. You didn't feel that delight from him. And that is important to recognize so that God can bring healing to those areas. And you can allow that healing to take place. So anyways, you said, don't get me wrong, I know he loves me and his family, but growing up, I didn't feel it nor could relate to what love was. I know it has shaped how I see God and relate to God. I hear myself say these things and feeling bad for my dad because I know he loves me and did what he did and said based on his upbringing, which is correct. But that feeling bad is that guilt that comes out of performance-driven people. They struggle with guilt. So they keep performing based out of guilt. They feel bad, so they do. So dad's not being a healthy dad for us. Like, he didn't show me love. Then we feel bad for feeling that way. I should be honoring, right? That's the sign of the neglect and the dysfunction that we grew up with. We feel the pain, we acknowledge it for a moment, then we feel bad. And so what do we do in the feeling bad? We do something. We go back to doing things to try to feel better. But I have to heal because I cannot live my life feeling far from God. I want the same relationship I see friends have with God. Let's take the comparison off of other people because I don't buy that your friends have this like heavenly relationship and you don't. I'd rather hang out with you, to be honest. Your friends don't impress me. They don't impress me much. Oh no. I see friends. I'm sorry. I haven't been able to attain it. It's not about attaining. So you can take the journey. My dad stepped down as a deacon in our church. Oh, okay. So he had the official. He is a deacon in our church because he had to step down as a deacon in our church because my sister came home drunk one night when she was 18. Okay. This is where Mark is going to do a Mark rant. This is where I am about to holla. Okay, this is where I said behave. This is where the church. I love you, church. I love you, the body of Christ. I love you, even the institutional church model that we're living in. I love you, but I got to say something. This is a perfect example of what we value and how we do things. Okay? This sentence right here. My dad stepped down as a deacon in our church because my sister came home drunk one night when she was 18. This is typical church response. Nothing's said, nothing's done. But then when the daughter comes home drunk, because the daughter's not coming home drunk because a Budweiser hit her in the head, and then then all of a sudden she just started drinking one night and got smashed. Okay. This is not how things happen. There are factors going on that create neglect. I mean, listen, everybody has issues, everybody has stuff, but there are factors, especially what I'm hearing here of a performance-driven dad, my way or the highway, that leaves a woman brokenhearted. And you have to understand, I spend every day dealing with sisters in Christ who have not been loved properly by their father. They're beating themselves up because of the addictions they struggle with, the eating issues they struggle with, the feeling disconnected from God, the chasing men or beating themselves up, or self-esteem issues or body dysmorphia or OCD or perfectionism. Right? Because, and then they're beating themselves up over it because they have this wound in their heart of not being loved by a father. Now you're hearing somebody, my daughter is 12 years old. So when I talk to many females in their battle, I think, what if Abby What if Abby went through that? And that one thought, I'm done. I'm done. I mean, when I say I'm done, I mean like emotion, like crying, like, because my daughter, right? And she's at that 12 to 13 age. She's at that transition, all of that's happening in her development. She's becoming a young woman. And I think, don't talk, don't feel, go in your room, leave me alone. Have I just ignored her like that? And then when our daughters are 18, how could see? This is what we do in church. Oh my. How could the deacon have a daughter? Because that's the only thing we pay attention to is when it red lights. No one sits down and goes, hey, see your 14-year-old daughter. How are you doing in fathering her? Are you spending time with her? That doesn't happen in church life. It's like, your family's good, right? Family first, right? Yeah, high five. Everything looks good, right? So we're good. Oh, there's a drinking problem. Right? So we go to the red light, but we never address the yellow light. The yellow light is a life of missing the love of a father. Girls don't go out and party because somebody captured them and pushed them into a party bus. I mean, sorry, there are cases for that. You know what I'm saying, though. There are steps and patterns our kids take. And many of you, sisters, you need to understand something. You are beating yourself up. And some of you have gone into obsessive compulsive. I'm not saved because I fell away and I did these things and I slept with this guy, I slept around and I did these sins. And God, and you never get into the root. The root is a father wound. It's this. It's a broken heart. And you're condemning yourself, and it's distracting you from the real problem. And so I remember when I was a youth pastor, and I still yet had the revelation of the Father's love, like I teach now, and emotional issues and mental health, all this stuff that I teach on now. I wasn't in that world yet. I was just being a youth pastor. And I remember sitting down with one of the leaders in the church, me and another pastor, and he's on the leadership board, whatever. And it was a tough conversation because I was like, we need to talk to you about your son. And here I am, I'm in my like low 20s, talking to a guy who's old enough to be my dad. And I was just like, I gotta tell you this. Your son needs you. And the whole conversation was awkward because I was like, it was so obvious he was oozing father issues of his dad's disapproval. And it wasn't like he wasn't off partying or clubbing or anything like that. He's a typical kind of church kid, but you just hear it oozing out of his talk and his behavior. So we sat the dad down and it was just like, he needs you. He needs your love and he needs your... And I can tell it's this awkward moment because when you get into those areas, dads can go into shame. I'm a failure. You're telling me I'm a mess up. And that can get really, really, really difficult real quick. And I remember, though, even then, it's like, oh, my goodness. I could see as a youth pastor, after a while, when I would sit down with parents, I would say, I can predict where everyone in this youth group is going. I can predict who's going to be in jail. I can predict who is going to be high performers. I can predict who's going to have decent, families, good enough families, right? There's no perfect families, just good enough. We're just doing our best, right? And a lot of it had to do with what's the family structure like. And I would have these conversations with parents. And I learned this from observation and experience in the trenches. I didn't get this like in a classroom. You don't learn this in seminary. I'd sit with the parents and their kids smoking dope, for example. That was a big one back in the day. Nowadays, parents are like, "Can I have some?" Um, but my kid's smoking dope, right? I'm like, all right, let's talk. What's going on? What's going on? I apologize for my now my demon possessed button's annoying me. And I would sit down and I would go, all right, what's happening? And they're panicking. And there's usually two things that were a problem. One is, I would say, so let me ask you, who's the spiritual leader in the home? And the dad would go like this. And he'd wait for his wife to answer. And I was like, all right. I even knew back then he's passive. And two, they were putting so much performance-driven stuff on their kids. Get involved. The philosophy of parenting is keep them busy. And my philosophy is, no, they need some time of boredom where they're not having a screen, where they just know how to be bored for a little bit. First of all, your brain needs a break. Not constant stimulation. And that's where creativity can form too. Right. And I get it. You know, our kids get hyper. You just need to keep them. I understand that. But there was this busyness where so involved, they couldn't do anything else. So they're coming to me. Now I'm on staff at a church, right? So I'm like, well, your kids aren't here that much. Wow, they're busy, there's stuff like that, right? And I'm not telling you, you know, as parents, whether you attend a church or you have a home group or whatever, the point is not whether you attend church, right? But in this situation, they're coming to their youth pastor, right? And I'm like, they're not. Yeah, how can I be a support? Because when I would meet with parents as a youth pastor, there was a lot of things that I was very naive about, a lot of things that I had to learn the hard way. But there was one thing that went well for me. There's many things that went well, but one thing in mind was when I first took on the role, I got the list of like all the core kids, like the regular attending kids, and I called all their parents, because youth ministry isn't really ministering to the kids. It's being a support to what the parents are doing. I mean, that you might, we're putting the role of youth pastors, whatever, to play roles that they're really there just to be a support to the parents and encouragement, be another voice to that, right? And that was very, very helpful because it gained their respect and it helped me to realize I'm in this for the family. But it got dicey when I would be like, so where's the spiritual leadership? So then, number one, who's the spiritual leader? Number two, where's the spiritual feeding? And this is the mistake. Well, you're supposed to be feeding. Oh, man. Whew. First of all, coming to youth group or coming to church in today's modern culture, that's like going through a drive-through and wondering why you're not getting any nutrition, right? Like we have really given to the institutional church something we should be doing in our homes. I saw this over and over again. We're like taking, because everyone's too busy. We don't have time. I, as a father, want to instill in my children. We have times we pray, we worship, we do that together. We read the Bible together. No place, no pastor, is going to do that for me. Now, I appreciate the support because that's very great. That's wonderful. That's very great. That's not even a word. That's very great. So, as you can see, I'm passionate about this subject. Because can I now go back? Let me go back to this story here, because my heart aches. You got a sister who's in her late teen, or as 18, she gets drunk, right? One night, it's like, listen, you got to deal with that and stuff. So now it's like, step down as a deacon. Why is he stepping down? Because it looks bad. That's really why. We can come up with the biblical reason you need to father your own home. It's like, you don't have any problems with your kids? He who has no sin, let me look at your home, and I'll find out sometimes you were acting all wrong, all over the place as a parent. So, right? So the whole system is messed up in what we value, because what this dad needs, first of all, is he needs to learn how to be a son so he can know how to father his daughters. He's got to work through his sonship issues so he can be present and be loving and be able to be a presence in their life. And so the church comes in at the last hour when now it looks bad because the daughter got drunk. And then we spiritualize. Well, he needs to uphold his family. But what's he doing though? Because this is like somebody who's obese putting them on just some crazy quick fix diet. They're going to gain the weight back on. You're not getting to the root problem of why this is there. This is why we never deal with the real problem. That's why the problem is not the problem, folks. Okay. In our church, you could not be in a leadership position if you or your family were not in order. This is going to sound harsh, but I'm going to rephrase that. If you and your family did not look like you were in order. Was anybody sitting down with your dad and going, how's your heart? How are things going with your daughters? Because I see they kind of struggle, bonding with you. How's that going? Are you loving them? Are you spending time with them? No, it's like, are you slapping them around with a Bible every now and then? It's more like your house needs to be in order means you're controlling your kids. Are you guys following me? Because I'm having fun on these tangents there. John Piccinati, nice to see you. I just saw your name there. As a youth minister, that's so true. Hard to influence when they're not in your presence to influence. Yeah. Then they're going to call you when their kids smoking dope. John, help us, John. It's like, So I know that's a tangent, but this is why I get frustrated with how churches handle scandals. And first of all, a lot of this is like that we hear in the news. Like, first of all, a lot of that's none of our business. Second of all, everybody's gossiping. Everybody has opinions, and everyone's throwing the stones, right? And we're never getting to the real problem, right? A pastor has an affair. And then they're like, you need to go into get help. Get help from where? Where? Tell me where. Where's he going to get help from? Oh, you're going to outsource that to somebody? Isn't that stuff we should know how to do? Like that we should know how to help people recover? Isn't that what we're supposed to do? Restore one another in meekness, lest we also be tempted too? Isn't that something we're supposed to be equipped? But we're not, because we're not dealing with our own issues. So the pastor falls, we go, good luck. Good luck. Now, I know it's messy. I've been involved in this kind of situations, affairs, adultery, you name it, all kinds of squirrely controversies and whatever, right? We're never dealing with the root problem. How did it get to the place where now he's got a drinking problem? Let's get to that, right? And we're more upset that now people know that he is an alcoholic or that they know about the affair. And we're never getting to the root issue. So anyway, I've always been resistant, to put it nicely, to authority. Right. So, a lack of a father. A lack of a father is his presence in the home messes up the calibration of how to relate to authority. So we either rebel against authority or we fearfully withdraw and hide and avoid intimacy with authority because it's scary. And many of us bounce in between both of them, right? That's why a root of rejection, all rebellion is rooted in rejection. So if you look out there and you see rebellion in all kinds of forms, right? Whether it's people rebelling against parents, rebelling against authority, people rebelling against police, or rebelling against officers, or people that are in gangs. It's all gang members have a loyalty in their gang that they didn't get from their fathers, and they find there, even though it's twisted, distorted, and so unhealthy, but it doesn't matter, they found belonging there. They found what their father didn't bring there. And we see this rebellion mindset everywhere, right? And rebellion's rooted in rejection. And we chase the rebellion, right? And we push back at the rebellion. We yell at the rebellion. No, rebellion's a sign the father's needed. So when a parent sees their kid go off track, they start panicking. And I'm like, build relationship. I know you want to panic over the rebellion. Build relationship. This kid's hurting, and we got to get to that. We get to the heart, and that's going to bring the healing and restoration. So dads would come to me, going back to my youth pastoring days, dad would come back to me, and I would just go, all right, don't panic. Are you spending time with him? And see, what they want was like 3 scriptures, 2 things, and like a little prescription to fix this. No. The fix is go spend time. Maybe the first thing you do, say, I'm sorry, I haven't been spending a lot of time with you. And they think, no, he's got a rebellious, he's got a lust issue. He's got a father wound. All lust is born out of father wounds. Lust is there where love is absent. Plain and simple. That takes work, right? Maybe I should do some stuff on fathers this week. I might turn my agenda towards this because I got a lot to say about it. So you've been resistant to authority. And so that comes out of healing through your father wounds. You've been performance driven and all those things. I have had struggles with anger and bitterness, mostly towards my dad, but also towards my mom now. Yeah, we haven't gotten to mom yet. That's a whole subject in itself. I do have some childhood trauma. I'm just now working through and told my parents about. There's so much more to my story, but I think I've hit on most things. I'm telling you to say this. I have a hard time speaking to my dad without getting angry and feeling bitter. Now, as I'm reading those words, my first thought is, yeah, it makes sense. I understand. Because you're becoming aware, history is catching up with you of an awareness. And so that's number 1. Number 2 is you're seeing he hasn't changed much. So you're seeing a manifestation, not of a man who's humbled himself and repented of his ways. You're seeing a man who's still stuck in his ways. So you see the pain and it's still in front of you. That's really difficult. Now, this is why we have to leave father and mother. When I say leave, I don't mean you never speak to them again. We have to make that disconnect to move on with our life. And we have to release our parents of any kind of way to have to change them. Release yourself of having to change them. Let go of fixing anything. Completely let that go. Because like you said, you've had some trauma in your life, and the sentence, I had to kind of read into the sentence. I'm not sure if it was written the way you said, I'm now working through and told my parents about. So I don't know if there's more to that sentence that would need to be there. So I'm assuming you told your parents about some trauma stuff, right? Beware about, as an adult, going as an adult to your parents about the things that they have done and not done. Beware. I'm your brother here going, time out, wait. Hold off on that. If you've done it, don't panic. But hold off on trying to go to them to heal wounds they can't heal. Unless there is a safety of love and humility. Because in humility, there's a place where those things can be healed and you'll have healing conversations. So that's very rare. Very, very rare. Because most likely for him, it would come up a lot of stuff. He'll feel like a failure, and he'll go into a lot of shame. He'll have a shame attack right in front of you, right? And so I also want to be protective for you, to guard over what you're working through. Work that out with somebody else. Work that out with other people, with therapy, with prayer, with safe Christians, that you can process out your story in journaling, working through and renewing those areas. But really at the top of what you shared is the biggest. And that is you feel rejected, left out, left over, overlooked. Overlooked is the word. Your heart was overlooked. And as I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about my daughter, how important it is that I look at her, listen to her, that when she walks in, she sees my delight. So important. So important. And so many of us are in a stage where you're at in this journey is you're reparenting yourself. You're recognizing the wound and you're reparenting. You're 50-something years or 50 years old or however old you're, 50s, you said. But you're repenting, I'm not repenting, reparenting stages of 10, 8, 12. Those memories pop up and you're reparenting them. What does that mean? You're positioning yourself to look at that memory through loving perspective. And you give that to yourself, so you start a new dialogue with those memories to bring healing to them. So instead of just listening to those memories and just being furious at your dad and being furious at yourself, what's missing? The girl. She's not getting tended to. She's not getting attention, right? So I'm using this picture, right? Because this is what happens. We see the memory. Okay, then let's take the memory. You at 8. So let's talk to you at 8 years old. What did you need at that time? What did you need to hear? That's discovery now, right? This is what we're going to learn. What did I need? I don't even know. Okay, we'll start knowing. What did you need? What did you need? As I'm raising my kids at certain ages, I go, oh my goodness. When I was that age, and then I start recalling things. I'm like, those are some reparenting moments for me as I'm parenting my kid right now. I'm learning to be a son as I'm also learning to be a father. And this is how God is going to utilize fathers and mothers to break the chains and the generational cycles that are in place. It happens through families being transformed. The church gatherings cannot replace the power of the organic home that is willing to come under the ways of God and let his healing work happen. It's good stuff, Mark. It's good stuff. My buttons behaved over here for a little bit. So I'm not sweating that you get angry when you speak to your dad and you get angry. Be gentle to that. Be gentle to that and release yourself. There is a place of acceptance that we have to go through. It's part of grieving. Accept that that's where he's at. He's not going to change. Just accept that. For your healing, just accept it. Don't try to confront him, convince him, accept it. So that then what will happen is what he has been will start to be a movie you watch more than just a movie you're in. Because now you've left the story of him and now you're in your full story. That's what leaving father and mother is. You're in the beginning, you're in their story. And when you leave father and mother, you now move into your story. In fact, when you became born again, you're no longer just a kid of your earthly father, whatever his name is. You're a kid of your heavenly father, of a new order. So you're walking in that. But our brokenness causes us to then look at when we look at the trauma and drama of our childhood, we're right back in the movie with them. And so acceptance gets the hooks off of trying to change our parents, convince our parents, get the family on our page, get it on our side, on our story, convince of what we've learned, show them the healing that we've been getting, right? And we get in these codependent, guilt-ridden, got to get out. Got to break out of that. So that then, and you start by going, I accept this is where they're at. I'm not going to try to do anything to change them. It's not your job. Leave that to somebody else. Leave that to somebody else. And part of is when you feel that anger, be kind to yourself and just go, you know what? I got to just accept this is where he's at. Because what the anger's coming up is what you see in him and what you've experienced from him. Now, if he's just straight up not safe, I don't know, if he's just not safe to be around, then create your boundaries as you're working through the healing. And forgiveness is a part of it, but I have to emphasize those other things because sometimes as Christians we slap on the forgiveness thing, and it's sometimes it's a lazy answer because there's work that needs to be done with this. It's not just one prayer, I forgive you, and everything's just solved. I don't communicate with my parents well. I have good days, but mostly I'm quick to anger and lash out while talking to them. Yeah, and I think the question I would send to you as your kind of homework and follow through is, what would it look like if you let go of trying to fix them and you accept in all their understand this, because people sometimes they get confused when I say acceptance. Acceptance meaning sin's okay, that dysfunction's okay. Acceptance accepts where things are right now. Right? When we practice self-acceptance, it's like we see everything for the way it is. We sober up. We accept, okay, this is where I'm at. Some of you need to recognize, okay, I'm going through some depression. All right. I accept that that's where I'm at right now. Because God doesn't go, I love you when you're out of the depression. No, he loves you right now. When we practice acceptance in other people, we practice, okay, that's where that person is right now. Because we have to let go of trying to change people. We're always like doing this stuff to try to change them when they're not wanting to be. They're not asking for it. They're not sitting, listening. They're not open to it. So we have to let go. And it helps us just focus on our healing journey now. So I wonder what that would happen to your anger when you talk to them, if that would happen. I desperately want to stop lashing out and get angry with my parents. You guys never want it. My parents have helped me a number of times throughout my life. I should not be lashing out at them. Well, no, don't go into guilt. You know, that's kind of the guilt stuff. All right.